Ever get the feeling that the universe is trying to tell you something? And I ask this because, well, actually, this is a question I've been pondering for a little while. And last night's game, a come from behind victory here by the Boston Bruins. So this is for my 1924-25 NHL season replay. And having won the game, the Bruins advanced the record to 9-11-1, which might not sound all that impressive until you hear that they finished their expansion season with a record of 6-24. That is 6 wins and 24 losses. And at the time that this game was played, in real life, rather than 9-11-1, they were 3-18-0. Needless to say, the Boston Bruins are outperforming history significantly in my replay of that season. When I started playing hockey on the tabletop again, sorry, forgive this noisy city that I'm in if you could hear anything in the background there. Where was I? So when I started replaying hockey on the tabletop, Boston performed, relative to history, pretty much in line with the history. This is my 1964 season replay with Paradise Hockey, which I got about a third of the way through. It was a 70-game season, so as you can see there, all the teams have played 27, 28, 29 games, thereabouts, and I've played one game since then, maybe a couple of games since this last update here. So Boston is in last place here. So that was the first project that got underway when I got back to the tabletop. And then in shootout hockey, in the League of Champions and Presidents, now I'd heard a lot about the 1971 Boston Bruins, but I thought, yeah, but I'm going to have the 1977 Montreal Canadiens in that same league. They surpassed the 71 Bruins for, total points in the regular season. They are considered by most, the consensus, to be quite arguably the best NHL team, the best single-season NHL team of all time. Not only did it go to Game 7, it went to overtime. My series between these two teams ended up meeting in the final of Season 1 of the League of Champions and Presidents that I do with the game Shootout Hockey. This went to OT. Dallas Smith tied it up in period 3. Now, Steve shut the door pretty quickly in overtime. I was just keeping exact minutes then with Shootout Hockey. I wasn't doing the seconds there in Season 1. And oddly enough, though, it's not shown here, or funnily enough, I guess, Season 2, I actually scheduled it so that these teams would meet in Game 1 of the regular season, and they beat the crap out of one another in the first period. Again, it's as if they knew. You get some strange things that will take place in the tabletop sometimes that will be in line not only with the actual history, but also with your history, having played those teams together. And so befitting of two teams that actually went to Game 7 OT in the final, the Cup final, I guess, for this one here for Season 1 of the competition. Normally, I think a lot of tabletop hockey players, I don't like games that are very penalty and fight filled. This was an exception, especially in the first period when I could barely get out of the period, for all the infractions, all the minors and major penalties and everything like that, all the what I assume to be scrums and skirmishes. That really fit well there. But again, I don't know if you could argue that this team outplayed history, but they were eliminated more quickly, or at least earlier in the playoffs, and it was more of an upset by a weaker Montreal Canadiens team. So in that respect, and given too that this was a league that also had the 96 Detroit Red Wings, 93 Pittsburgh Penguins, 84 Edmonton Oilers, and of course the 82 New York Islanders, the current reigning champions for this league after Season 2. And Boston made it all the way to the final in that Season 1. Now, following this project, I did a project with Roberto Schiavini's Kill the Power Play, where I did sort of an alternate replay, not of the full 1968-69 season. What I did was I divided up the teams, so I had 3 expansion teams and 3 original 6 teams in each division, so for more level divisions. And then I think it was a 32-game schedule. Actually, that's where I got the idea that I carried forward into the Mike Owens Quick Play Pro Hockey. The 12-team league and the 32-game schedule. So that, I sort of got that idea here and then carried it over to that. But in this one here, again, the Boston Bruins, I guess they did get to the second round in 69 in real life, and of course they won the Cup in 1970. Here they got all the way to the Stanley Cup final, and they went to Game 7, where again they were narrowly eliminated by the Montreal Canadiens but this was, I believe anyway, this was a come from behind for Montreal. The Canadiens were down, and actually in this series as well, they were down 3-2 in this series. And so not only did they push it to game 7, but they were actually up 3-2 in the series, the Boston Bruins were. Over to Mike Owen's Quick Play Pro Hockey for a side-by-side comparison, which startlingly accurate. Montreal finished with 78 points in my replay, 78 points in real life. Small discrepancies with the record, but look at that goals for and goals against. 187 to 138 in my Mike Owens replay. In real life, 189 to 138. You can look at Mike Owens Quick Play Pro Hockey and on the surface think, oh, it's dice, and how realistic of a simulation can it be? To which I just wouldn't even offer any words. However, there was one little outlier, one little exception here. The Boston Bruins, they outperformed. So in real life, they finished 3rd overall. Not by a whole lot, but I mean enough that they went from 3rd overall to 2nd overall. The Toronto Maple Leafs couldn't catch them. They finished with 68 points, a much better goal differential, plus 40 instead of plus 15. And Toronto ended up finishing 3rd overall and couldn't catch Boston. And what I ended up doing, actually, because Boston, in compiling this year better than history, 31-23-6 record for the regular season, a lot of that came against Montreal. They really had Montreal's number, at least during the regular season of this project. So what I did with this project, and what I do sometimes with my other projects, if teams that I want to meet in the playoffs don't end up meeting in the playoffs, the Boston Bruins in this case, they were eliminated in the semifinal by the Detroit Red Wings. So a bit of an upset elimination there, because at that time during that season it was 1 versus 3 and 2 versus 4. I think, come to think of it now, why did Montreal play Toronto in the semifinal? I'm going to have to go back and have a look at that, but that maybe it's something in Montreal and Detroit, then Boston and Toronto. Be that as it may, Montreal ended up winning the cup in my replay of 47. But I did a post-season best or off-season best of 7 between Montreal and Boston. Again, Boston was ahead 3-2 in the series. So even though Montreal won it, it went 7 games. And again, Boston was ahead in the series, and they did during the regular season and during this postseason, because Montreal actually dispatched of the historical champions Toronto, and then Detroit with relative ease in my replay of this playoffs. But when I matched them in what I called this Goodwill Summit here, I just wanted to attach a title to it that seemed somewhat conceivable. This like off season, like they're going to get together, maybe a post-war relief effort or something like that. Not to make light or, of a matter like that, but I just kind of, I want some scenario that I wanted to come up with here. Again, Boston really took it to the Montreal Canadiens. And then, of course, there's this, to speak of Mike Owen's Quick Play Pro Hockey projects. So I think anyone who spent any time following this project would have predicted, myself included, probably the 1972 New York Rangers, who did advance to the final, or the 1975 Buffalo Sabres team. The 1983 Boston Bruins ended up, they eliminated the 81 St. Louis Blues, and then the 1970 Montreal Canadiens, who were contenders to finish 1st overall in the league. And then they eliminated the New York Rangers, who did finish 1st overall in the regular season part of this competition. So there you have it, the 1983 Boston Bruins, of course, were the Constellation Cup champions. So back to this one, and another thing, in part of this, in compiling this, again, it doesn't look outstanding until you realize that in real life they were 3-18 after 21 games, and they are 9-11-1 in my replay. And so they actually get off to an 0-6 start. So their record in their past 15 games in this replay, and I'm doing this now just in case, I don't know, they could falter and fall off a cliff in the final 9 games of the season, and then it will seem less impressive, less remarkable. Let's be honest here, again, it's tabletop, and typically I think the law of averages after a little while will compute or whatever. But for the time being, again, they are riding after going 0-6 in their first 6 games. I remember even thinking at the time, like, they're going to do worse than history, where they finished 6-24. Like, they're not even going to win a single game. And so they've gone 9-5-1 since then. And a big part of that 9-5-1, and I made a video about it when it happened. If you understand how the game Blue Zone Hockey works, and my adaptation of it, at least with the match card system, my Gray Zone Hockey, pretty similar, if not identical. In fact, I think it's safe to say that that is one thing that I really don't modify a whole lot at all, is the match card system for Gray Zone Hockey, Blue Zone. Actually, no, there's some small mods there. But mathematically, Boston's chance of winning that game was maybe double digits out of 100, I mean. Might have crept into the double digits. Mathematically, they had an absolutely horrible chance. I'm talking, if you know the game Blue Zone, I'm talking like a match pack. If I can't remember the exacts, but like about 32 cards, and like 26 of them were Montreal and 5 or 6 of them were Boston. So you do the numbers, you do the math on that. The percentage that just when a scoring chance hit that it could come up with a Boston card, a Boston match card, so mathematically slim. That game was played on Christmas Day. I made a video about it. And so I'll return to the question. Is the universe trying to tell me something here as a Habs fan? What do you think? Bye for now.